Liz, I am so excited to have you here on the podcast chatting about all things interior design and referrals. I loved the time I got to spend with you and your team when I was up there many, many months ago. It feels like it was just yesterday, though I know it was
It does.
almost a year ago. You guys, you have an amazing business, and I always tell this to folks. Like I work with a lot of industries that I love. I love like lots of groups of folks that I work with. They're all kind of like as an industry, they all kind of have things that they do similar. And one of the things I love working about with interior designers is because you guys make me want to change my house like every day. Just scrolling through your Instagram, I'm like, ooh, I could do that. And ooh, I could do that. So right now I'm painting a bookcase, and I like to say that it's inspired by all my interior design clients. So you guys do amazing work. So why don't you tell, I mean, I gave the official bio, but why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and the work that you do?
Sure. So we've been in business. This is our 16th year in business, and we are outside of Philadelphia. So we serve, if anyone's familiar with kind of that mainline area, um, working professional families. That's typically who is hiring us. They are short on time, have big projects. So they typically live in multi-million dollar homes, and they are looking for an advisor and someone to hold their hand throughout their project. So we are taking them from start to finish. We are meeting with their contractors. We're really putting their entire project in a pretty little bow and delivering it to them so that they can focus on their lives and their families and anything else important.
Yeah, and I think the fact that where you kind of are and the niche that you're in, you've really honed in on the type of client that just make it happen. Like,
Yes.
here's what we want it to look like. Just make it happen. It's already so disruptive. Anybody who's ever done any type of work to their home knows that it's going to be disruptive. And then to like have to manage all the pieces and parts and people and stuff is that much makes it that much harder. So you really do try to just step in and like, we will handle it. We will take care of it, which I think is
Yes.
awesome.
Yes.
And so tell folks how long you've been doing this.
I've been doing this for 16 years. In business for 16. I've been in the industry for 21.
Awesome. Okay, perfect.
So,
So let's talk about why referrals are so important for your business.
sure. So I think, do a nice job of, we have systems in place. We think we're running our business great. And referrals was always something that we talked a lot about as our best projects were coming from referrals and we needed to get more of them. And like a lot of things, we threw a lot of things against the wall and hoped that some of it would stick. If it was gifting or thank you cards, we didn't have any kind of plan in place. There was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just, let's try and get more referrals. Um, because we knew that that was going to serve our business in good times and in tough economic times.
Yeah, so I know when you think about like good times and tough economic times, those clients that come from referrals, like most people understand the basics of like, yeah, the referral showed up. That means the new potential client already trusts you, right? Because they have somebody who trusts you, that's who they're like vouching for you. And so they
Yes.
already trust you. They kind of understand who you work with, who your ideal client is. That doesn't mean every referral is going to be an exact perfect fit, but it's that goal of like, hey, I even tell folks, I'm like, even in good economic times, we know it happens in not so great economic times. People are a little bit more judicious with how they spend their dollars and who they give their dollars to, and they do not want to make a mistake, particularly when it's not great economic times. But a lot of people act that way in good economic times too. Like they want to know this is the right person for me, this is the right company for me to hire, and this is who I'm going to ultimately work with. So they want someone to vouch for you before they decide to be like, here, help me with my $500,000 renovation or my $1 million renovation or whatever it is. And I always think that folks think about referrals like, oh, I just want to make sure I'm getting the good times. I'm like, yeah, but you also want to make sure you've got that right strategy in place to do it during the not so great times um,
Yes.
as well. And I know when you and I were having that conversation last year, so it had been last fall of 2023, before you hired me, that was something you had already put your finger on the pulse. You were like, we have an election year coming up. There are things happening next year in our country. And of course, by the time this recording is aired, we will know who the new president is. Right now, it is
Yes.
still a mystery. And it's still stressful for everybody, no matter who you're voting for. And so you kind of knew that was coming. You were like, this is happening. And we want to be prepared for it. So I always appreciated that when we first talked. You were like, I want to get ahead of this and make sure I'm ready to go. But the other thing I always like folks to pay attention to is, yeah, this is going to help through this year, and we'll talk about results in a little bit, but also like it's a process to keep going
Hmm.
with, right? Have you
Yeah,
found that as you guys are putting things in place that we worked on and that I built out for you guys, that this is like we will be doing this not just in 1 year, but like 3 years from now?
totally. Totally. And but I think that was something that we were looking for. So I met you at Luann Live last October, so a little bit over a year ago. And like you said, we had identified that this was a pain point for us. And we aren't asking people for $50. We are asking people for a lot of money. So their projects are high dollar, right? So for them to trust us with their project, we take that very seriously. So to your point of like, if a referral comes in, someone to vouch for us is huge, right? They're probably not going to go to many other places. So um, we knew that coming into an election year, it was like, we kind of said, revenue is probably going to stop coming in July, right? Because people are going to start feeling the stress. So we need a plan in place. And I think I even contacted you over the summer, Stacey. It was like we hit the ground running in January. We had our plan. We started doing all of our things and it felt really good. And I think even when you came the first visit, we had gotten like 3 referrals. You were like magic um, during your visit, and we had regular referrals. And then over the summer, it was like crickets. And I remember calling you, and I was like, Stacey, I don't know what to do. The referral, everything has gone cold. And of course, you were right. You said, just hang on, just keep doing what you're doing. And then, like, a windfall of referrals came in. So it does work. I really believe in it. And I've told my whole team, they all know about this. And this is something that we will continue to do forever. It's that important.
Yeah, I think that here's the thing. Most people, when they think about making an investment in their business, like I'm going to do this for marketing, or we're going to do this to bring on clients, they're looking for that. You hear it all the time, that like repeatable expectation or that consistent results that I can get. And I always tell folks, you can get consistent results with referrals, but you have to be willing to look back over 6 months or 12 months, not what's coming in every single day or week or month, because that is something we can't control. We can't control when the referrals will come in. We can't control external or internal factors that are happening. So when people are like, I just want consistent referrals, I was like, I want consistent referrals for you too. And I want you to have that growth that you're looking to have. But I can't say you'll get 3 in March and 3 in May and 3 in July. Right? It's not that
Yes.
that type of
No.
consistency. So and when you reached out over the summer, you're like, things have gone quiet. And I was like, but you predicted this. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, you already knew this. Like, it's like,
Yeah.
smarty pants, you kind of already knew that this is probably what it was going to look like. You're so like attuned to what happens in your industry and with the clients that you work with. What I knew and was able to bring to the table is, yeah, but it was working. You were getting referrals since we started together in January. It's just the lull. The lull was always
Yes.
coming no matter what, but those
Yes.
referrals, they were waiting on you. And so, and as
Yes.
you said, like that windfall happened, we got past the summer and then it was
Yeah.
good things started happening again.
Yes. Yeah. And
So
we've gotten projects with builders. So we focus on builders, realtors. We've gotten projects with people that we had our eye on for years and I had reached out to and gotten nowhere. And I mean, I can happily and proudly say today that we've had success. So
that's
that
awesome.
feels amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, because for you, and every business is a little bit different, but most businesses kind of follow like there's a little bit of the same baseline framework for most businesses that I'm in, interior design or not. And that is you probably have people referring you, which you did, right? And so let's cultivate more referrals from them, or look at the people who are referring you and be like, it's not the right fit, or it's been a really long time
Yeah.
since they have referred. So let's maybe clean up the list of who is our existing referral sources. But like most designers that I work with, you had your eyes set and your sights set on a few people that you're like, these are the folks that we ultimately want to refer to us. And most people follow the same playbook for that. They just like reach out and be like, hey, I'm a designer. I do awesome work. Check me out. I'd love to show you my portfolio. And that's not usually what gets anyone's attention. And so when you learn the process that I teach, that running five, keeping warm framework, it allows you just to connect on a different level and in a different way. And it takes time. Like nothing happens overnight. Like I do
No.
love how you say I was there that weekend with you or that those 2 days with you and you're like, we got 3 referrals. It's magic. I
Yeah.
do keep a running tally of when that happens. I like every
You
so just
should.
yeah, just for clarification for the people listening. So Liz worked with me at the VIP level. That's my VIP experience. It's called
Mhm.
Referrals in a Day, where I build everything and then I go to their team for 2 days and we implement it. And so I look at every VIP client that I've worked with this year and I'm like, okay, who got referrals while I was there? And up until this point, I am 5 for 6. So
Wow.
yeah, I'm like,
You are magic.
just think when you decide to focus on something, right? That is when you're
Yeah.
rewarded with it.
But I think also focusing on the right things. So my team and I, we have weekly meetings and we always talk about the referrals. And it came up that prior to working with you, we didn't have a plan and we weren't laser focused, and identifying the people that we weren't getting great referrals from was just as important as the people that give us really good referrals. It was like, okay, let's because not we're not made for every job. So, and I think
Right.
you really brought that to light of like, hey, if these people keep referring you and it's not the right project, we might want to let that go. So,
Right. Yeah. And I think that, it's most people think about referrals and are like, oh, I just got to do this one. I got to figure out what the one way is to get more referrals. And I'm always like, no, we're like, there's a lot to it. There's nuances to it. There's situations in which you need to have the type of, like laser focus on how you're going to handle that. And it's generating referrals in your business is a business decision like any other investment or business decision
yes.
you're going to make about growing your business. It shouldn't be looked at as I'm going to do this one thing and it's going to work. Like it's an ecosystem. I mean, I couldn't come and spend like 1 hour with a company and be like, okay, you got it all. I could barely get through all of it in 2 days. So I think that's the thing that when business owners like lock in on that and they're like, oh, this has got to be a focal point for us. This is something that we have to talk about as a team. This is something that we have to measure, that we have to track, that we've got to have metrics around. There are
Mhm.
activities or actions that we have to do. There is like things that we'll be doing and saying, and we have to be consistent with that. I mean, it really does kind of become a way that you add on to how you run your business. And
Yes.
I know that you found that to be true as well.
I love that add on. It is a lot of work. It's so worth it. But if you told me in the beginning, if you don't put in the time and do the work, it's not going to happen for you. And we carved out, it's on the calendar and we color coded it and it is part of what we do. And it's, like I said, it's part of our systems. So all of those little things, we carve out the time because it works, it pays off.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, cool. So let's talk about a little bit about the results that you've been
Yeah.
having since we worked together. When you talk about the number of referrals received, however you kind of want to talk about this from that perspective, I think is important. But just kind of share like what 2024, because we started working together in January. So we're going to
Yep.
count it as like a full year, but like, well, not yet. We're closing in on a full year. What has 2024 looked like or been that's been different from a referral perspective than it's been in previous years as you compare it?
So we kind of looked at this from a dollar
Mhm.
standpoint, right? So we're very financially motivated.
Yes.
So this year, just from referrals, we had $185,000 increase in revenue just from referrals. And that's just in, I'll say 10 months because we started working with you in January, but
Mhm.
that was the end of January. And so it was really like 9 months.
Yeah.
We had a client with a new prominent builder that we'd been going after. That was a 20 plus $1,000 spend, with probably more to come. Another client from a referral. It was actually her daughter that referred her. to
No.
us.
Love it.
She's 60,000 plus in revenue. We have another one reaching 100,000 in revenue. So, and just last week alone, we received four promising pre-vetted referrals, and I have meet and greets coming up with them soon. So, and I think this is a big number, at least for us. We have 17 new strong referral resources that are
That,
referring us consistently.
that is awesome. Yeah, because that's the thing, it's about getting the right projects. It's not how many referrals can we get, it's how many referrals can we get to the right projects. So, okay, this is like an unfair question to ask you that you did not know was coming. So I'm just curious with the what you're at so far, revenue wise, and then the four promising ones you have coming up. Best guesstimate, if you were to close all four of those, plus the revenue from referrals you guys have already received this year, where would that put you?
That would put us well over 500,000.
That is incredible. That is
Yeah.
incredible. And here's the thing, we both know because we know each other well now. I am happily going to take all the credit for that.
As you should.
But clearly, this is actually happening because you and your team are putting in the work and you're following the process. And you do the things like I always talk to my clients when they're starting work with me. I'm like, things are going to work and then they're going to slow down. And then they're going to work and then they're going to slow down because that is the ebb and flow to how humans behave. And we don't control the opportunity people come across. We control the desire to choose you over the other 50 or 100 amazing interior designers that are,
Yes.
within driving range. And so we have to pay attention to that. But I always tell folks, I'm like, but when things slow down, right, and you get nervous, you have to call me, right? You have to reach out to me because more than likely, the number one thing you're thinking is, oh my gosh, is it going to stop working? And if the minute you allow that into your head, then you start taking different action. The minute you're
Mm-hmm.
deciding, oh, I don't know if this is going to work anymore, you show up differently in those conversations with folks. You look to take shortcuts when it comes to the
Mm-hmm.
referral work that I want you putting in. So I always tell folks, I'm like, if things slow down, like I'm not scared of them. It's okay for you to call
Right.
me with bad news and be like, hey, this like it's been really slow, right? But I know that we have to trust the process and we have to show up to the process on an ongoing basis, like you just got 14 referrals, not like, oh, it's been 3 months since
Yeah,
I've gotten one, because that intentionality that you bring to the referral work that you do to be able to generate those new referrals, like they need that same mindset when times are good, even when times are slower.
totally. And I think what I love about working with you, Stacey, so much is I don't feel like a used car salesman. And I think I've read so many business books and um, it feels natural. It feels like the way I would talk to somebody. And it's not rocket science. It's not anything hard to do. It's time, but it's the way. I don't know how you came up with this system, but it's really simple things, but it's the order in which you do them and the way in which you say them. And it's like you said, it's the tweak of a word or the tweak of a gesture. And um, it feels good. I don't feel like I'm a sleazy salesman.
Which is really important.
It is.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's so funny. I remember one time I was talking, this was like early in my career or whatever, and someone's like, okay, I need you to, I was like in sales, I was like in my 20s, like, it was like a lifetime ago, it feels like sometimes. And they were like, okay, we need you to do this. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for like a day, but that feels real bad. And I
Yeah.
don't know if I'm going to keep doing it. And that's when I realized really early on, if I don't figure out a way to do things that feel good for me and work, like if they don't work, it doesn't really matter that they feel good,
Yeah.
that I just won't keep it going. Like that's just who I am. I
Yeah.
will not keep it going if it doesn't feel right. And everything I do, like you say, it's like the shift of a word or the shift of a gesture. For me, I always am thinking about if I were receiving this, how would it
Yes.
impact me? And when you can put the focus on the other person, it usually changes everything about what you're ultimately thinking about doing. And then it's just like, I just want to show up in the right way. And
Yes.
that genuineness, being authenticity,
Mhm.
like that all comes through and your referral sources see it. And then of course, like there's a framework and there's science behind it and there's things that we say on
Yes.
purpose and there's a system behind it. But really it comes down from that place of just being like, hey, like I want to do something that feels good, but it's also the right thing to do and it works. It's all those
And we have
components are.
a motto at work, jobs that bring us joy, right? We only want to do things that feel good and work with people. And this is something that brings me joy. It feels good to do it. So it's like, why not?
I love it. That is so awesome. Okay. So I know in our time working together, you probably had like little tiny ahas and big ahas, and you've kind of shared a few of them or whatever. But I was just curious if you had to articulate it down to like the one thing or the two things or whatever, right? Doesn't really matter, but that were totally like new to you. Like there were like a total aha moment that you didn't really see coming with what I teach.
Well, this might seem silly, but it's the language of when someone asks me, how's business?
Yeah.
Like it is second nature to me. And my team laughs at me because they're like, oh my gosh, you're saying it again. But it works. It's just that whole language, I feel so equipped. And like I said, I don't feel sleazy. Um, that feels great. And the thank you cards, we always write thank you cards, always, 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 but I was writing them wrong. Like, who knew?
Who knew you
And
could write a thank you card wrong?
yeah, right. And we are huge on thank you cards. I'm like, oh my gosh, for 14 years, 15 years, I was writing these wrong. So,
Well,
and I
I
think just the cadence, that that is like mind blowing that we keep track of it. And there are multiple spreadsheets going, and um, you can actually measure this. That was kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, so you and I both know I don't do math in my head, so I can't figure out what the percentage of the ROI is on what being a VIP, that investment was for you versus the revenue that you've received and the intended revenue that's to come. But it's a whole bunch. It's a
It was, I mean,
it's
I
a
would
whole
do it
bunch.
again. Yeah, it was worth every penny. And I really believe in coaches, especially for things that you can't do yourself. And we weren't doing this ourselves. So, and there's too much revenue to walk away from, and relationships. Like, what you help us do is build relationships. And I feel like this whole world is about relationships. So yes, it's about getting new projects and increasing our revenue, but we are really strengthening relationships with people, which is like you can't you can't measure that.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, and the fact that there's a systematic way to make sure that you're just doing it the right way and in the right cadence. I think that's the
Mhm.
piece that people are like, oh, so I probably shouldn't meet somebody for the first time and then ghost them for 6 months. I'm like, not if you want them
Right.
to remember your name.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's some things feel very small, right? And here's the thing about what I love that I do is that I know I'm not like, I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not solving some crazy disease. It is like tweaks in some cases, different ways to say things, different ways to show up. There is science that runs through everything that I do. But I love the fact that I just help people do what they want to do anyways, which is really connect and build relationships with the people and take care of the people who are going to also take care of their business. And I just give them
Mhm.
the framework to be able to do that in a way that then also produces more results. But for most people that I work with, it feels very natural to show up
Yes.
in this way.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. Because the last thing I want to do is tell people to do something and they're like, oh, heck no, I'm not going to do that.
I mean, I'll tell you, when you came and left, you said this, we were like, oh my God, it was so overwhelming. But then it's just baby steps. It's not, you don't have to do it all in a day. And once we got set up and running, it's like I said, now it's clockwork.
Yeah, I love it. That is so
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. So if you were having a conversation with another business owner and they were deciding to work with me at that VIP experience level, what would you say to them?
I would say it's worth every penny and more. I would do it again in a heartbeat. I just think the strongest projects come from people that already know us. And selling is hard. It's really hard to convert someone that you don't know into a client. So why not, take a shortcut and have a referral from someone that already knows you? Because chances are, if your friend refers you to me, you're already taking out a lot of the guesswork. So it makes things easier. Um, and it's fun.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Liz, for being here with me today. It's always fun to connect and catch up, and I appreciate you. I just want to give a shout out to you and your team for being the folks who do the work. Like I maybe I didn't say it enough earlier. I probably should have. The truth is I can provide the roadmap all day long, but the clients that have success and the clients who are willing to trust the process are also the ones who are willing to do the work. And that's not me. I'm not sitting in your office doing the work with you guys. You guys are doing it. I'm just there for guidance and the roadmap. So, congratulations on all your success. I just know those four potentials are going to turn into referrals. I can like feel it in my bones as long as they're the right fit for you and they're the type of clients that will bring you joy. And I can't wait for you to tell me what that ultimately looks like in terms of revenue dollars for you. But I appreciate you being the type of client that wants to put in the work because you're ready to reap the rewards. And you have, and you've deserved every single one of them.
Thanks, Stacey. We couldn't have done it without you. So we appreciate it. And I'll sing your praises to anyone who asks.
Thanks, my friend. I appreciate it.